An Indian student, arrived freshly in America with a dream and a valid visa, found himself handcuffed and pinned down by US authorities at the Newark International Airport. The video soon went viral, raising many questions and horrifying the diaspora in the United States of America, seeking answers to whether if this is the kind of treatment that is going to be meted out to talented international students. Sources have told India Today Global that the Indian consulate in New York and the Ministry of External Affairs here in New Delhi have both sought answers from the US authorities there as also the US Embassy here in New Delhi. But they're yet to get details of the incident or the Indian student in question. However, this also brings about the bigger question over here is the United States of America in its drive to becoming nationalistic, losing out or shutting their gates to talented people and students from across the world, particularly from India. Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Moon. This isn't an isolated incident. In fact, it is part of a troubling pattern, one that involves deportations of over 1,000 Indians since January 2025 from the United States of America. It also involves weaponizing of visas as grounds for aggressive detentions. For Indian families who once saw America as the pinnacle of academic aspiration, these deportations raise unsettling questions. Are Indian students welcome in today's America, or are they being quietly driven out by design? It all unfolded at Newark Liberty International Airport in New Jersey, one of the busiest gateways for international travelers entering the United States of America. The student, reportedly from Haryana, had arrived with hopes and a valid visa. But upon facing immigration authorities, he allegedly struggled to explain the purpose of his visit clearly. What followed wasn't just a denied entry, it was public spectacle of humiliation. Multiple officers pinned him down. His hands were handcuffed, legs tied, 2 knees pressed into his back. The young man cried out in his native Haryanvi, "I'm not crazy, they're trying to make me look insane." The scene ended with the student escorted through the terminal in tears, his dignity in tatters, his American dream crushed. Kunal Jain, who witnessed the incident, filmed and shared the video on social media. In his words, what he saw was a human tragedy and deeply inhumane. Jain's video quickly went viral, drawing emotional reactions from thousands across the globe.
At the port of entry, he could not probably explain these authorities why he was there, or somebody doubted that he has some mental issue or whatnot. And that was not the point. My point was the way they were treating him and not allowing anybody to talk to him in Hindi, or he did not have an attorney access or whatever it is. That kind of treatment, even the United States don't give it to terrorists. That was very painful. So if somebody is not violent, then that's fine. They don't force them. They go in a regular way. But if somebody turns violent, in this case, this boy looks like he started hitting his head like this on the wall. So they all became like very, judgmental that the boy may kill himself or something. So they started, forcing him down and putting some pressure just to control him. That image is not going away from my mind. When the police came, they hold him like this, like a chicken, with both the hands are handcuffed and legs are tied. And 2 policemen were like holding him like this. I could not take that picture. I was so frozen at that moment. 2 things they can do. They should immediately provide an attorney access. They should find out, because they have the information. They have to find out who's that person, what was the reason he is there, and let the law take its own course. They should have a linguistic, like an Indian Hindi linguistic. If they have a language problem, Hindi linguistic, somebody who can speak to them, and an access to an attorney. Because at that moment, they have no access to their phones. They have no access to their parents. Nobody will come forward to help them from the public. We all are US citizens, or people who are living there. Nobody wants to take and do anything which is unlawful, and which I understand we should not do anything which is unlawful. But whatever is his legal rights as a human citizen or a human, Indian government should provide those resources, whether it's an access to the attorney, access to the linguistic somebody, or counselor maybe, or psychiatric, even if it is a mentalist instability case or whatever it is. At least that should Indian government should do. And I'm sure they have some resources which they are doing it. It's just that people are not aware.
The video showed not just a person in distress, but an entire system cold, robotic, and unforgiving. What came out of that video is what the United States of America is representing itself to be. The question is this how people of color and foreign students are really going to be treated? Jain's post wasn't just a retelling, it was a cry for accountability. He wrote, and I quote, "He came chasing dreams, not causing harm." Even the Indian consulate in New York took note. In a social media post, the consulate wrote, "We are in touch with local authorities," reaffirming its commitment to the welfare of Indian nationals. But the gesture, while appreciated, didn't undo the trauma. The video isn't just about one student. It has become symbolic of a wider anxiety among Indian students in the US. And the anxiety is justified. Since January 2025, over 1,080 Indians have been deported from US airports, often over similar issues, unclear answers, minor documentation errors, or arbitrary interpretations of intent by immigration officers.
The reference you made, Yashwant, to the irregular migration, yes, we had a discussion on a range of issues, and one of the issues which came up was actually mobility of people. Now, we have a position on mobility which is a principal position, applies to all countries. As a government, we obviously are very much supportive of legal mobility because we do believe in a global workplace. We want Indian talent and Indian skills to have the maximum opportunity at a global level. At the same time, we are also very firmly opposed to illegal mobility and illegal migration, because you also know that when something illegal happens, many other illegal activities get joined onto it. And it's not, this is not desirable, it's certainly not reputationally good. We have, with every country, and the US is no exception, we have always taken the view that if there are any of our citizens who are not here legally, if we are sure that they are our citizens, we have always been, open to their legitimate return to India. So it's not a position unique to the United States. I do understand right now that there is a certain debate going on and a resulting sensitivity which is there. But we have been consistent, we have been very principled about it, and that remains our position, and I conveyed that very clearly to Secretary Rubio. At the same time, I also told him that, look, while we understand all of this, and I also accept that these are autonomous processes, it is in our mutual interest to facilitate legal and mutually beneficial mobility. So, as I said, if it takes 400 odd days waiting period to get a visa, I don't think the relationship is well served by this. So I think he also noted that point. So let us see how we take that forward. But while I've seen some numbers, and I'm moving now to Lalit's question here, I've seen some numbers. I caution you about them because for us a number is operative when we can actually validate the fact that the individual concerned is of Indian origin. So we'll have to see sort of really how that goes, because it has, as I said, the basis of their stay or not able to stay, and the fact that at our end we have to verify that they are indeed Indians, because naturally there are sensitivities involved there as well.
While the Indian diaspora in many ways has faced the systemic exclusion with quiet resilience, the Hispanic community, on the other hand, has had a very different playbook, one of mass mobilization, civil disobedience, and at times, utter chaos. When ICE raids targeted Hispanic neighborhoods in Los Angeles, the reaction was immediate and explosive. Barricades went up, dumpsters burned, and federal buildings were vandalized with anti-ICE graffiti. Protesters shut down the 101 freeway, clashed with riot police, and forced the deployment of the National Guard. Over 150 arrests were made, but the message was clear: this community would not go quietly. Why does one diaspora get negotiations after riots and the other gets silence after systemic humiliation? The contrast with the Indian response couldn't be starker. Where Indian students faced handcuffs and deportation with dignified appeals to embassies and legal systems, Hispanic activists turned urban centers into pressure points. Their methods extracted political concessions, sanctuary cities, DACA protections, and softened rhetoric from democratic leaders. Meanwhile, Indian students confront 41% visa rejection rates with no comparable political advocacy on their behalf. The United States of America under Donald Trump's second term has become rather unwelcoming of international students. Between 2023 and 2024, the visa denial rate reached up to 41%. The message from Trump administration very clear: even if you have a valid visa, you will not be allowed entry. Also, international students are now being treated as abusers of the system rather than contributors to it. And the new rules don't just end at denial. They allow revocation of legal status with frightening ease. If your name ends up in any law enforcement or biometric database, even wrongly, you could be deported. If your service record, that is Student and Exchange Visitor Information System, is flagged or terminated, your legal right to stay ends immediately. No grace period, no appeal, no graduation. Since Trump took office, thousands of service records, particularly of Indian students, have been terminated. Even the positive statements made by Donald Trump during campaign and afterwards of automatically converting green cards for those who graduate from Ivy League universities rings hollow, because behind the scenes, what the machinery and the system is doing is deport, deny, reject, and ensure that international students are humiliated. This isn't just about one student, it's about the message being sent to an entire community that has for decades shaped the very fabric of American excellence. Indian Americans make up just 1.4% of the US population but have contributed to over 12% of US startup founders in Silicon Valley, leading roles in tech giants like Google, Microsoft, and Adobe. Over 40% of foreign-born engineers, 25% of doctors, and a huge portion of Ivy League faculty. From Wall Street to Hollywood, NASA to Netflix, Indian immigrants have built companies, led research, and healed millions. This is the diaspora that is now being questioned at airports. Why is the US viewing these high-potential candidates through a lens of suspicion, while the US State Department clearly spells out that 20% of Indian nationals account for the international students in the United States of America? That the Indian students dominate STEM programs, that they're ahead in coding contests, as also are the backbone of America's tech research. They are Nobel laureates, Oscar winners, Rhodes scholars, CEOs, congressmen. Dr. Vivek Murthy, US Surgeon General, Pramila Jayapal, member of the House of Representatives, Neil Katyal, former US Acting Solicitor General. And this diaspora continues to give back, not just economically, but socially and intellectually. In science, Indian origin minds like Venkatraman Ramakrishnan and Hargobind Khurana have reshaped molecular biology. In public health, Dr. Vivek Murthy leads national policy as US Surgeon General. In finance, Ajay Banga runs the World Bank. From the White House to Wall Street, from Silicon Valley to Ivy League campuses, Indian origin professionals drive innovation, policy, and create a better future for America. So when Trump's policies create a hostile environment for students, the very pipeline that nurtures this talent, the cost isn't just emotional. it's economic, it is strategic. So when a young student is handcuffed, it's not just about one visa. It's about a community being told, you're not welcome anymore. Can America afford to lose such talent? Not just because there is plenty of space here in India, but also there are many countries like Germany that are now welcoming Indian students. Some say returning or being deported to India is not a loss anymore for the Indian student, which is partially true. India is rising. It's building its own Silicon Valleys, its own unicorns, its own Ivy Leagues. Young Indians today have the option to thrive at home. But that doesn't justify inhumane treatment abroad. The issue isn't whether India is a good plan B. The issue is respect, dignity, and the recognition that students arriving in America aren't criminals. They're investments in the country's future. If they're sent home in handcuffs, what message does that send to the next Sundar Pichai? The video from Newark Airport is more than just an isolated incident. It's a wake-up call. As India rises and its diaspora flourishes globally, the world must ask, how do we treat our dreamers? America once inspired millions across oceans, but in this age of suspicion and closed doors, America stands to lose a lot, not just immigrants, but also lose the whole idea, the soul of being a land of opportunity, since it is indeed a country that was built by immigrants and is of immigrants. Thank you for watching Statecraft.